Hey, what's going on, everyone? Trying to go live on Instagram, but there we go. Some reason I did not want to click over there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know this is kind of last minute, um, but good to be here still. Sorry about last week. Last week, I actually got invited on to a different podcast, and I got invited onto a podcast locally that man, it was a lot of fun. It was kind of interesting seeing being, I'm not saying like I'm a super in-depth podcaster, but having people on and doing podcasts and then getting invited onto another podcast that's audio only. They only save the audio and they put it out on I don't know, Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that. It was kind of fun seeing the behind the scenes. What's up, Rabbit? Good to see you, bud. And so, yeah, that's last Friday. That's where I was. Um, yeah, so sorry about that. I didn't let anyone know and just decided to move our Friday live chat to today instead of last week. Oh, how are you guys doing? How is it out there in Arizona land, man? Good. So it's all good. Good to hear, man. Um, it has been slowly getting warm, although not Arizona temperature up here in Eastern Washington. Yeah. Again, not, I know we're not getting anywhere near what you guys are getting, but I really dislike heat. Winter is my jam. There's some cool things about it, like the birds coming out, and we're kind of getting more invested in our garden and trees and stuff like that, kind of in the backyard. And we have apricots coming in, so I'm looking forward to that. But even like, man, anything over 75 is like, I hate it. I hate it. My wife loves it. Like I have the AC set to 70 in the house, and she's running around wearing a sweater. Um, Goodness. Rabbit says it's supposed to be about 103 this weekend. Yeah, I'm worried that it's going to be a hotter summer for us. We have gotten up to 118 a couple summers ago. I can't remember if that was last summer or the summer before that, but we do get pretty hot up here in Eastern Washington, and so we had a super mild winter. I don't think. I mean, we didn't get a lot of rain. I don't remember it snowing at all. Maybe it did. It was like a light dusting, and it was gone. Um, but I'm really worried that that means we're going to have a brutal summer. So that's kind of my guess. Rabbit says same. I don't like summer. Prefer winter because I like snow. So naturally, I live in the desert. Yeah, same here. The nice thing about where we live is you typically get all four seasons. We moved here in 2019, April of 2019, and there there was so much snow. Um, you couldn't see, like, in our neighborhood, there was no fences installed yet. Um, and so you just had like the developer hammered stakes into the different corners to mark your property line. There was so much snow you couldn't see any of the stakes. So that was, and I don't think we've had snow that bad since then. But it's like every 10-ish years or so. So maybe next year or the year after. I mean, we're due a pretty significant snowfall. We'll see. Not sure how that's going to go. Yeah. Yeah, Rabbit, I got invited to a podcast here locally. These teenagers were doing a more like Christian focused podcast, and they had me on. The question that they asked was, oh gosh, it was like, why is family so important to God's plan? Something like that. So it was just a little 20-minute conversation, but it was kind of cool having these I don't know, probably late teens, early 20 I call them kids that have this question, and having me who's 20, I've been married for 21 years. Like I've probably been married longer than these kids have been alive. Um, and talk to them about, what the importance of family is. It was a lot of fun. And it was one of those things, like they limited it to 20 minutes because they do two. They do one in Spanish and one in English, which was, I thought was pretty cool. Um, but it was one of those things, like I wish it would have went a little longer because there was just so much that we could have talked about. And I was having a great time talking to them about it. But it just kind of got me thinking, like, how much usually we don't get involved in politics at all on the Thin Line Defense Co channel, and really here. I mean, we have people that clearly are right leaning and they're pro Second Amendment. Um, but I haven't really thought about religious stuff, and what are people doing to prepare themselves for, um, just prepare themselves spiritually. So it was a thought that's kind of been bouncing around in my head of, is that something that we could do, of getting people, either on our live chats, or, trying to get them on the Everyman's Arsenal podcast and talk to them more about not necessarily their religious beliefs, but, um, like how do they prepare themselves? How do they, um, yeah, Rabbit says religion doesn't tend to come up that often. I think there's definitely a stigma, but it's so interesting to me. When I deployed, one of the things when I went through our deployment training, one of the things that they talked about was there were two things that they said we should never bring it up when we're outside the wire talking to locals. We should never bring up politics, and we should never bring up religion. And it seemed to be, so that was the direction that we were given. But it seems to be that that's what they wanted to talk about all the time. And so it's definitely interesting to me. I mean, it's something that I've thought a lot about. Excuse me. Yeah. So just some ideas that I've been floating around my gray matter. I had 12 Bravo reach out to me. He actually texted me yesterday. I haven't heard from him. He was having some medical stuff. I hadn't heard from him in a while. And so it's kind of cool to see him chime in. And he was like, "Hey, how come there's no live chat?" Yeah, we used to do them Thursday nights. And I was like, "Oh, well, we just moved them." It's like every other Friday. And I'm not super on top of it like I used to be. I got to be better about that. And I keep saying I got to be better about that. I haven't yet. One of these days it'll happen. Excuse me. Yeah, so let's see here. Rabbit says, I miss snow. Hopefully next winter I can go up to Snow Bowl and take my boys snowboarding and skiing. Yeah, my in-laws bought a cabin, about an hour and a half, 2 hour. Is it 2 hours? Might be 2 hours from here. Kind of near a ski resort. And so it's actually nice right about now because there's some really nice hikes and creeks and some really cool nature that you can see. I'm not a snowboarding, skiing kind of person, so I like taking going sledding and making hot chocolate afterwards, and that was always fun with the kids. But all my kids actually really enjoy skiing, and so my in-laws have season passes for the ski resort up there, and I think the season passes come with guest passes. So usually whenever my kids or my wife and the littles want to go, they'll have passes available for them. Sledding is super fun. Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting. They're putting in a new neighborhood park near us. And I've never seen this before, but the city council mailed out a flyer to all of the residents. And I don't know I shouldn't say all of them. I don't know if everyone got it or if it was just people that are going to be in this neighborhood. But we got a flyer, and it talked about where the new park is going to be, but they're specifically designing it to have um, a sledding hill. Excuse me. I don't know. It's not huge, but from where we live, we live on top of a hill and you kind of got to go down. Probably total gain would maybe be like 50 to 100 feet to go from where the school is up to where our house is. Um, but that would be a really fun snow sledding, hill to go down on. Yeah, Rabbit says it's actually really cool. I've been trying to get the girls, my two youngest, to come up with names. That was another thing that the city asked for, is for residents to think of names for this park. And so, the 6-year-old is like, let's name it Green Park. Like, why? Because it's green. I'm like, oh, okay, they don't really have that sense yet of like how to name things. So it's going to be interesting to see if they come up with any other names for this park. I haven't been on Discord for a while, and it's like people are always super active over there. Walsh actually sent me a picture today of I don't know if he didn't tell me not to talk about it. So I'm going to see if I can find it now. So someone made a prototype suppressor and put our logo on it. And it's a company I haven't heard of before. Because when he showed it to me, I'm like, oh, is that Griffin Armament? He's like, no, it's this other company. Yeah. Yeah. Rabbit says residents name a thing always goes really well. Looks at Bodie McBoatface. I hear you, man. Excuse me. It's kind of interesting growing up. I grew up in this town, Hollister, and this was before the clothing company got really big. And so I was on the cross country team, and I had a Hollister cross country T-shirt. And I remember I think I was down in like our senior trip. We went to Disneyland, which was like 6 hours away from us in California. And someone had asked me about the shirt, like, oh, that was a really cool shirt. It was one that our team designed for the cross country team. Um, like what Hollister, like what mall was carrying that. So I had to explain it. I'm like, no, I live in the town Hollister, and it's nowhere near the beach. Or like Hollister clothing brand, they always talk about like Huntington Beach and Newport Beach. Actual town of Hollister, not near the beach. I mean, unless you count an hour being near the beach. So it was one of those things like, yeah, Hollister is named after some colonel, I think. Um, I have no idea if the clothing brand is named after the same colonel. Probably not. It's probably like White Devil or something. That's my guess. I have no idea if Hollister is like some liberal clothing company. Just guessing. Bailey Luke, you're in the house, dude? I mean, with the US, near is a relative term. Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of interesting when my wife and I went to Italy last year, and how long? We were gone for, man, I think it was 17 days total. We did like 2 days in Denmark. But it was actually too long. We were there for too long in Italy. And I started looking up like, oh, you can fly from Rome to Dublin for $100 or something really cheap. Like, we could totally do this, babe. We can go and check out other places in Europe, and it's not far. It's not going to take very long, and it's not expensive. Here, we were just talking about doing a California trip this summer. My daughter's graduating high school, and so it'd be nice to go down to California and see family. And it would take us, because we have little kids and like stopping to rest, it's going to take us 2 solid days of driving, like 12 plus hours each day, probably maybe 10, but 2 really hard days of driving. And so if you're thinking, well, I want to spend 5 days with family, you got to plan 5 days just for driving, really 4 to 5 days for driving. It's going to take you 2 to get down there, spend 5 days with them, and then 2 to get back. If you decide to do a detour, like maybe it's going to take 3 to get back. And so for us, it's like, okay, well, when are we going to find time? My son's doing a lacrosse camp. He's got a like a camp out with his friends that he's doing. Our summer is quickly filling up. When are we going to find time to plan a 10-day trip? And me being a relatively new employee at this new place I work at, I've only been there for 9 months, so I don't really have a bunch of leave saved up. Fortunately, it's remote, so I don't know if, as long as I have good internet, I guess it would be, I could probably do it. Um, I haven't really talked to I brought it up once to my boss, and he had said, if you're in the state of Washington, we don't care where you are in the state of Washington. I don't know how they would know, like if I'm in Idaho or Utah or California or something like that. So, yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out. Excuse me. I forgot to bring water up before I started this. Yeah. So I think it's interesting, Rabbit, you brought it up, like probably not just I think Europeans the most don't really have a good sense of how big the United States is. And really when you break it down, because cultures among states are pretty different, it really is like we have 50 different countries. They're all united. But really, like, there's they're so different in what they look like and how the people in those states are, and how there's jokes that we have about drivers from other states. um Californians, right? Californians start coming into an area and you're like, oh, it's Californians. You can tell where all the wheatgrass shops are opening up. Rabbit says, I want to take a vacation next year for my 40th, go on a road trip or something, take a training course out of state, maybe try and visit some friends I've only known online, but it's expensive and time. When are you going to find time to do it? One of the things that we did that really helped us out with our Italy trip, I don't know if you guys know the Google Flight hack. I don't know if you can call it a hack, but on Google Flights, what you could do is you could put the airport that you are leaving from and the airport that you want to fly to, but leave the dates blank. And then it'll search for the next 12 months and show you prices. And when we went to Italy, it was actually cheaper flying out of our local, four terminal airport here than it was to drive the 4 hours to try to fly out of a bigger airport like Seattle. And so that really helped us out to keep costs down. He says, next February, I'll be taking a CNC machinist course. It's 6 months long, so no extended trips for me. At least taking that course is my current plan. Dude, that sounds like CNC machinist course might be covered under the VRE. I do remember we brought that up one time, the Veterans Readiness and Employability. I can't remember if that's what VRE stands for. But have you looked into that yet? What is VRE? Veterans Readiness and Employment, Chapter 31, Education Benefits. If you have used your GI Bill benefits, then that might be an option that opens up for you, something to look into. I actually called the VA today because one of the things I was looking into, I have 3 months of educational benefits left. And there's a course I could take that's 6 months long. And the way the VA works is when you start the course, they pay for the entire course all at once. And so even though I only have 3 months of benefits left, the fact that the course is a 6-month course, when I started it, I was eligible. So the VA will pay for all of it. And so, but I was asking the guy, I go, okay, so then will I only get the housing stipend for the 3 months that that I have benefits? And he goes, no, you'll actually get it for the entire time that you're enrolled. The other thing that I learned today, and I don't know if this applies to you, Rabbit, for any of our listeners that are out there, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Rudicell or Rudicell decision. Oh, he says, I did look into that and I think it would be covered, but I found out I have 7 months worth of GI Bill benefits left. I thought I only had 5, so it worked out perfectly. Awesome. Yeah, do that. And the other thing, if you're taking the CNC machinist course in person, like in a brick and mortar, then you're going to get a housing allowance for that zip code wherever the school is. And so it's going to be a lot more than online. And even if you, at least last I checked, I don't think they changed this, but even if it was hybrid, even if you had some of the classes online, some of it in in person, then you're going to get paid the housing allowance as if you were in person full time. So I mean, in some instances, that is, he says, yep, it's a in person course. Yeah, so that's a huge perk for people. That's awesome, man. One thing that I'm fighting with, and your kids are younger than mine, so you may not have to deal with this for a bit, or if at all. Once your kids turn 18, they get dropped off of your VA disability. So whatever it is, $80 a month or whatever for having a kid. Once they turn 18, that they get dropped off of your disability pay. But if they are enrolled in I forgot how the VA words it, if they're enrolled in school, like my daughter, she turned 18, but she still had 4 or 5 months of high school left. And so before she turned 18, you have to apply to get, to basically tell the VA, yes, she's 18, but she's enrolled in this eligible education program, and it actually bumps you up. So it goes from like $80 per kid to $200 per kid, something like that. So stay aware of that. When your kids are getting older, especially right around the time that they turn 18, you might see your disability check drop a little bit. But if they're still enrolled in high school, or if they go off and are enrolled in college, then you can get benefits for them for the period that they're enrolled in, until I think until they're married, or until they turn 23, I think. So what I'm going to do for my daughter is, once she goes off to college, that $200 is just going to go into her account. So she'll have some spending money while she's off at college. So something to stay on top of, because that's not something that I followed when I was looking at disability benefits under the VA. Oh yeah, dude. Rabbit says I still need to get them added to my disability. Yeah, it's not automatic. So you got to reach back out to the VA. You could do it online now. It's really simple to do online. So you could do that tonight. And I don't know. I don't remember. It's been several years. I don't remember if they back pay you for that difference. I mean, you're talking, you got 2 kids, so $160 a month, or whatever the amount is. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I'm thinking it's about that. Let's find out. Excuse me. Because that definitely can help out, man, significantly. So each additional child, depending on your percentage rating, is like $30 up to $100. Rabbit says, I'm hoping that with the new claims I'm going to be putting in, I'll be able to get to 100% or as close as I can, because this new job I got is going to be lacking in the pay department. Yeah, I get that. That was one of the things I was actually looking into when I left law enforcement, was getting into being an electrician, a home residential electrician. and I passed all the tests and everything, and then they basically gave me the offer, and it was $20 an hour, and it's just not something that we could, we can't really provide for the family. I can't provide for the family on that. And so I thought, okay, if I were able to get my VA disability to 100%, um, then I could do it. But as it stands right now, there's no way. Can't do that. So hopefully that works for you, man. That would be super beneficial. Hmm. Yeah. So are you still doing the security thing then, Rabbit? You're going to do that until this CNC class starts? That'd be hugely beneficial. Hmm. Oh, okay. Cool. Says he's an RSO at a local gun range. Awesome, man. Yeah, it is. Man, that sounds like a fun job. There's been a couple jobs. I have a friend that's a store manager at a GameStop here. I can't remember if I brought this up already, but he had asked me last season to work at GameStop seasonally, and it's minimum wage, and man, I had so much fun doing it. Just working like evenings and weekends. Um, it was so enjoyable just being able to talk to people. And it's kind of weird because I don't think of myself as a social person. I feel like social interactions are pretty draining on me. If I spend all day socializing, I get home and I just want to veg out for a while. But I told my wife, I was like, if I could provide for the family working at GameStop, I would totally do it. I had so much fun working there. But there's no way you can provide for the family doing that, so it is not my job. Excuse me. Oh, goodness. I wanted to check one thing. Oh, I don't want to risk that though. Left security job because they forced me off our static sites and put me back on patrols. Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, dude. Anything that like this new job that I have, it's a lot less money than what I was making, but there is no stress. Working from home is super convenient. There's some, I think any job you deal with some difficulties in leadership or stuff getting put in place that you're just like, I don't. Why are they doing that? Right? It makes the job harder. I had a funny interaction. Well, I found it funny. They probably didn't, with a manager who said, she said something like, "We expect you to handle stressful situations," and I said, "I expect managers not to create stressful situations." And so my boss had to talk to me about that, like, try to keep your opinions to yourself here. Okay, cool. And then when did you say the CNC class starts? Oh, next February. So you'll be doing that for the rest of the year, the RSO gig for the rest of the year. And then yeah, dude, get online and add your kids to your VA disability. It's super easy to do. And again, depending on your percentage, let's say you're at 70%, I think it's like $77 per kid per month. $76 per kid per month. So, another 150 bucks, super helpful. And just use that to, I don't know, get the kids new clothes or something. And especially if you get back pay or something like that, get a big old chunk of that. I had hoped it would run 2 times a year since it's a 6-month course, but sadly it's only once a year starting in February. Is it there in Arizona? Excuse me. Goodness. Freaking tired over here. Probably not going to be able to last much longer. But what's this Winrose game that Java and Walsh have been trying to get me to play? I feel like my computer's a little too old for that. Oh, nice. My wife is actually thinking that our local community college actually has a really good nursing program. She was thinking about doing that, going back in for nursing. I just don't know how she would do with that. Not sure. Pirate game? I will say no thanks. I've been playing. My son and I actually been playing the heck out of Hades 2 on Xbox. It's free on the Xbox Game Pass. We really liked Hades 1, and so it's kind of fun. We typically take turns. Once someone dies, we'll pass the controller off, and the person plays until they die. And so he was. It's just been fun, like comparing with each other, and talking smack to my son, who's the better video gamer, and uh, yeah, he's turning 16 this summer though. We got him a old beater car that he's so excited to be driving. He had a orientation today to go work at a wedding venue doing. I think he's gonna be doing like the cleanup and stuff at the end of the night. Um, so man, he is looking forward to some freedom. Oh, dude, it's addicting. I don't know what it is about some of those games. There's another game called Skull, Skul. Um, Super addicting game for me. And Hades is like that. It's like a Baldur's Gate sort of like a top-down view, but it's a dungeon crawler, I guess you could say. But your playthroughs are, I guess you could try to make them be the same, but the things that you get are so random. It's really hard to have two playthroughs be the exact same. So, goodness, man. Sorry, guys. I have not been. I'm probably going to pop a couple Tylenol PM and crash out tonight, which is kind of crazy on a Friday night. As a 20-year-old, or even into my teens, I remember being able to stay up till like 2 a.m., get up at 6 or 7, go off to school, and you'd be fine. And now, man, you get less than 8 hours of sleep, and you're just like, your body's beating you up. How come you're not? How come you're not operating like you used to? Rabbit, Hades and Skull are roguelikes, so everything is different. Everyone's super addictive. Yeah, adjusting back to days, Kimberly. Dude, I remember because I worked when I was working on aircraft. My favorite shift to be on was probably swing shift, which went from like 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. The mids was fine too, like midnight to 8 in the morning. Um, I love those shifts, and I feel like I became the training officer, which was a day shift position, and so I went from swing shift. So it was like Friday night. I get off at midnight or 1 in the morning, but then I had to be at work Monday morning at 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And that was a really I was on the like night shifts for years and years and years, and being on day shift was really really tough. And I don't know how it was in the Marines. Was having your hands in your pocket a big deal in the Marines? Scooby, it was a for some reason, man. I mean, I get it that it was against policy or whatever, but we had people that would just. I remember this one, my one boss, the one that kind of finally convinced me to not have my hands in my pockets. He would get after me every day about it, and finally one day I kind of snapped at him, and I was like, "What is the deal? I'm not hurting anyone. why does it matter if my hands are in my pockets or not? And I'm at E5 at this point. He's at E6. And he was like, the only reason it matters is because higher ups are bugging me, saying, like, hey, why does Sergeant Gonzalez walk around with his hands in his pockets? And he's like, the only reason I want you to stop putting your hands in your pockets is so I don't have to hear about it anymore. And I was like, oh, that's fair. Yeah, okay. I'll and that's what it took for me to stop putting my hands in my pockets. Wake up at 6:30 to get to work, get home in the afternoon, and I'm falling asleep by 6 or 7. Actually go to sleep at about 9. Then I wake up at like midnight, can't get back. Oh, dude. That's rough, man. Excuse me. My wife is on some medicine right now that she is like so loopy come 9 or 10 o'clock. Um, and she has a really difficult time sleeping. And so I was like, oh, this is good. She's able to fall asleep quick, but it's the staying asleep. You know, she's up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. and no, it doesn't help. You know, it doesn't help her at all. Yeah, the older guys hate seeing you put your hands in your pockets and will yell at you to get them out. I saw a thing today or yesterday. It was Mark Zuckerberg designed this device for his wife because what would happen is she would like wake up in the middle of the night. She would check her phone to see what time it was, or look at the clock or something to see what time it was, and whatever the time was, it started like triggering her. She would start freaking out. If it was like too early, she would start worrying about one thing. If it was too late in the day, she'd be worried about something else. And so he had designed this thing, and it was, I guess, an alarm clock of sorts. It didn't make any noise. All it did was just change colors. So they like did no tech in the room, no alarm clocks, no cell phones, nothing like that. She just has this like box next to her bed that when it's time to wake up, it's just like a green light or something like that. And so um, she can, if she does wake up in the middle of the night and there's no light in the room, then she knows like she could go back to bed. There's nothing for her to grab a hold of and look at and start triggering her brain to start working through all these scenarios of what could go wrong or what she might have to do. And supposedly it's been really helpful. One of the things my wife has done is leaving her cell phone not plugged in next to the bed, so she doesn't even have the ability to check it easily. And I think that's been pretty helpful for her. I think my thing is I could sleep. Excuse me. My work starts at 6:30. So I'm on a 410 schedule. So I work 10-hour days, but Tuesday through Friday I have Mondays off. And I work 6:30 to 5. And so, there's times where I'm not getting to bed till midnight or 1 in the morning, and then have to be up at 6 a.m. so I can start work at 6:30. Fortunately, it's like I have to walk 12 feet to get to my office. So it's not hard. Yeah, dude, light from the phone makes it really hard to go back to sleep. Big time. And I don't think those, they have those like blue light filter options for your phone screen. I don't think it helps that much. But I might have to start seeing how that works, like leaving my phone outside of my room. Goodness. All right. We're gonna wrap it up here, Rabbit. Um, I'm falling asleep at the wheel. That's not okay. I'm playing with this rubber band, and I should just whack myself and see if that helps me wake up. I don't think so though. Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you being here and chatting with me. I'm gonna wrap this up. Go, yeah, dude. Thanks, man. Take some Tylenol PM and try to crash out. You gotta get like 10 hours of sleep. Sounds primo. Sounds awesome. Hey, Josh. Thanks, buddy. You lurker. We're old and tired. Yeah, I know. It's funny. I brought that up with my kids. My daughter was like, "Why are you so?" No, my oldest asked me, "Why am I easier on the younger girls? I'm not as hard on them as I was on her." And I said, "One, I'm tired, and two, I'm smarter." When she was a kid, everything was a battle. It was our first kid. We didn't know how to parent, so everything was a battle. Now I know how to pick and choose my battles, and so stuff isn't as important anymore. Like, God, I don't want to deal with that. No big deal. You want Sprite for dinner? Sure. That's okay. We're wrapping it up, Zach. I'm falling asleep out over here. Yeah, so I'm gonna do better, try to be better about being more regular with these live chats because I do enjoy them. That's it for me, guys. Appreciate you hanging out and just shooting the breeze with me for a little bit. And we'll try to do a weekly. We'll see how it goes. See if we can run another one next week. All right. Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you, buddy. Love you. Kisses. See you guys.